can I say to the Home Secretary that the relationship between this country and the West Indies and Caribbean is inextricable. The first British ships arrived in the Caribbean in 1623, and despite slavery, despite colonisation, 25,000 Caribbeans served in the First World War and Second World War alongside British troops. When my parents and their generation arrived in this country under the Nationality Act of 1948, they arrived here as British citizens. It is inhumane and cruel for so many of that Windrush generation to have suffered so long in this condition, and for the Secretary of State only to have made a statement today on this issue. Can she explain how many have been deported? She suggested earlier that she would ask the High Commissioners. It is her department that has deported them. She should know the number. Can she tell the House how many have been detained as prisoners in their own country? Can she tell the House how many have been denied health under the National Health Service? How many have denied pensions? How many have lost their job? This is a day of national shame, and it has come about because of a hostile environment policy that was begun under her Prime Minister. Let us call it as it is. If you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. And that is what has happened with this far-right rhetoric in this country. Can she apologise properly? Can she explain how quickly this team will act to ensure that the thousands of British men and women denied their rights in this country under her watch in the Home Office are satisfied?
Home Secretary, I've asked you to make a statement on the House today on the operation of the Windrush scheme. Your department's treatment of the Windrush generation has been nothing less than a national scandal. In November, we learned that at least 164 Windrush citizens were wrongly removed, detained or stopped at the border by our own government. 11 of those who were wrongly deported have died. You've announced 3 more today. Every single one of these cases is a shocking indictment of this government's pandering to a far-right racism, sham immigration targets and a dog whistle of the right-wing press. The Home Secretary has spoken about being a second-generation migrant himself. On taking this job, he promised to do whatever it takes to put this wrong right. We are now 10 months on from when this scandal broke. Not a penny has been paid out to any Windrush victim in a compensation scheme. The independent Windrush Lessons Review has not yet reported. I say to you, Home Secretary, before the review is even complete, why are you deporting people? We hear about deportation flights to Jamaica this week, when you have detained up to 50 black British residents and given them open window removal notice. Why are you deporting them, given that this review is not reported and there's been no compensation? How can you be confident that you're not making the same mistakes? Movement for Justice is working with 26 of those who risk removal. 13 first came to the UK as children. 9 came under the age of 10. 11 people have indefinite leave to remain. Another has a British passport. 36 British children will have their passports taken away by this charter flight. Or have their parents, taken away by this charter flight. Once enslaved, then colonised and now repatriated. Why do you say that these children should live without their parents? Why do you say that the families of black British people who have been killed by your department's incompetence, that this is acceptable? That is what happens. We are now 20 years on from the Macpherson Review, which found institutional racism in this country. I ask the Home Secretary, why is it that still in this country, Black Lives Matter less? It was 2 years since there was consensus in this House at the way that the Windrush generation had been treated in this country. This is a generation of people, thousands of them, who came to this country after the Second World War and gave so much but took so little. Let me just remind the Minister, 164 people were detained and deported, which the government says it got wrong. On the back of that,
5,000 people were denied access to public services, healthcare, pensions, education, all that they were entitled to. Against that backdrop, he's right to say the government rightly set up the independent Learn Review led by Wendy Williams. In the wake of that, they suspended flights to Jamaica. So the question today is, why have they resumed those flights? In light of the scandal of people who arrived in this country as children, how can he guarantee the House that there are not people on those flights who are actually British nationals? And in the wake of the leak, where Wendy Williams herself says that you should not be deporting people under the age of 13, can he confirm that there are people on that flight who arrived in this country aged 2, aged 3, aged 5, aged 11? And when he relies and says to the House that all of them are, or gives the impression that they are murderers and rapists, he knows that there are many who are there for non-violent offences. We cannot, at the same time in this House, condemn county lines and those who would pimp young black children in this country and send those same children back to Jamaica for such drug offences. So I say to him, when will we see this Lessons Learned Review? It was promised in March last year. It was then delayed till September. We are almost now 2 years on, and people watching see the way that this government holds in such disrespect the contribution of West Indian, Caribbean and black people in this country. When will Black Lives Matter once again?